So, breaking entertainment news today, we've lost another great entertainer, Tommy Smothers. Half of the Smothers brothers duo with his brother Dick has died at age 86 because of a recent battle with cancer. Now, according to AP, he was co-host of the most socially conscious and groundbreaking television shows in the history of the medium, and his passing has been mourned by many people in the industry, especially his colleagues. The National Comedy Center, on behalf of the family, said in a statement Wednesday that Smothers died Tuesday at home in Santa Rosa, California, following again a lengthy battle with cancer. Tom was not only the loving older brother that everyone would want in their life, he was a one of a kind creative partner. His brother in the duo's other half, Dick Smothers, said in a prepared statement, "Our relationship was like a good marriage. The longer we were together, the more we loved and respected one another. We were truly blessed." Now, when the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour debuted on CBS in the fall of '67, it was an immediate hit, to the surprise of many who had assured the network's expectations were so low it positioned their show opposite the top-rated Bonanza. And of course, its topical humor and its willingness to take on rough topics drew viewers of all ages of we call now the hippie movement, what he called the tuning in movement. The Smothers Brothers would prove a turning point in TV history, with a sharp eye for pop culture trends and young rock stars, such as The Who and Buffalo Springfield, and his daring sketches, ridiculing the establishment, rallying against the Vietnam War, and portraying members of the era's hippie counterculture as gentle, fun-loving spirits, found an immediate audience with young baby boomers. The show reached number 16 in their ratings in its first season, and it was higher rated internationally, especially in Canada. It also drew the ire of network censors. After years of battling with the brothers over the show's creative content, the network abruptly canceled the program in 1970, accusing the siblings of failing to submit an episode in time for the censors to review. Now, the show did come back some 2 decades later in a revised format, but didn't really catch on with the 1980s, 90s generation. Now, nearly 40 years after this, when Smothers was awarded an honorary Emmy for his work on the show, he jokingly thanked the writers he said had gotten him fired. He also showed that the years had not dulled his outspokenness. "It's hard for me to stay silent when I keep hearing that peace is only attainable through war," Smothers said at the 2008 Emmy Awards as his brother sat in the audience beaming. He dedicated the award to those who felt compelled to speak out and are not afraid to speak to power and won't shut up and refuse to be silenced. During the 3 years the show was on TV, the brothers constantly battled with CBS censors and occasionally outraged viewers as well, particularly when Smothers joked that Easter is when Jesus comes out of his tomb. If he sees his shadow, he goes back in, and we get 6 more weeks of winter. At Christmas, when other hosts were sending best wishes to soldiers fighting overseas, Smothers offered his to draft dodgers who had moved to Canada. In still another episode, the brothers returned blacklisted folk singer Pete Seeger to television the first time in years. He performed the song Waist Deep in the Big Muddy, widely viewed as ridiculing President Lyndon Johnson's policies in Vietnam. When CBS refused to air the segment, the brothers brought Seeger back for another episode and he sang it again. This time it made the air. Now, after the show was canceled, the brothers sued CBS for $31 million American and were awarded $775,000. Their battles with the network were chronicled in the 2002 documentary Smothered: The Censorship Struggles of the Smothers Brother Comedy Hour. Tommy Smothers was not only an extraordinary comedic talent, who together with his brother Dick became the most enduring comedy duo in history, entertaining the world for over 6 decades, but was a true champion of freedom of speech, harnessing the power of comedy to push boundaries and our political consciousness, National Comedy Center Executive Director Journey Gunderson said in a statement. Now, born Thomas Bolin Smothers III on February 2nd, 1937 on Governor's Island, New York, his father was an Army major, was also stationed there. His brother was born 2 years later. In 1940, their father was transferred to the Philippines, and his wife, 2 sons, and his sister Sherry accompanied him. Now, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the family was sent home and Major Smothers remained. He was captured by the Japanese during the war and died in captivity. The family eventually moved to LA, suburb of Redondo Beach, where Smothers helped his mother take care of his brother and sister while she worked. Now, the brothers had seemed unlikely to make TV history. He had spent several years on a nightclub and college circuits and doing TV guest appearances, honing an offbeat comedy routine that mixed folk music with a healthy dose of sibling rivalry. They would come on stage, oftentimes, Tom with a guitar in hand and Dick toting an upright bass. They would quickly break into a traditional song, perhaps John Henry or Pretoria. After playing several bars, Tom, positioned as a dumb one, would mess up, then quickly claim he had meant to do that. As Dick, the serious short-tempered one, berated him for failing to acknowledge his error, he was screaming in exasperation, "Mom always liked you best." They continued that shtick on the show, but also surrounded themselves with a talented cast of newcomers, both writers and performers. Among the crack writing team, the crew used were future actor-filmmaker Rob Reiner, musician Mason Williams, and comedian Steve Martin, who presented Smothers with his Lifetime Emmy. Regular musical guests including John Hartford, Glenn Campbell, as well as the great Jennifer Warnes. Now, Super Dave Osborne, Bob Einstein had a recurring role as Officer Judy, a dour LA police officer who once cited Gas Liberace for playing the piano too fast. Leah French, as the hippie Earth Mother in the segment Share a Little Tea with Goldie, always appeared to have been drinking something brewed with more than just tea leaves. Now, the brothers had begun their own act when Tom was a student at San Jose State University. He also formed a musical group called the Casual Quintet and encouraged his younger brother to learn the bass and join. The brothers continued on as a duo after the other musicians dropped out, began interspersing comedy with their limited folk music repertoire. Their big break, of course, came in 1959 when he appeared at San Francisco Purple Onion, then a hotspot for new talent. Booked for 14 days, they stayed a record 36 weeks. Booked in the New York's Blue Angel, they won praise from the New York Times, which described them as a pair of tart-tongued singing comedians, but to their disappointment, they couldn't get on to The Tonight Show, then hosted by Jack Parr. Now, according to published reports, Parr didn't find them funny. Now, Parr kept telling our agent he didn't like folk singers, except for Burl Ives. Smothers told AP in 64. But one night we had a cancellation, and we went on. Everything worked right that night. Now, the brothers wanted to appear in the TV shows of Steve Allen, Ed Sullivan, Gary Moore, Andy Williams, Jack Binney, and Judy Garland. Their comedy albums were big sellers, and they toured the country, especially colleges. Now, television first came calling in 65, casting them in the Smothers Brothers show, a sitcom about a businessman played by Dick, who was haunted by his late brother Tom, a fledgling guardian angel. It lasted one season. Now, shortly after CBS canceled the Comedy Hour, ABC picked it up as a summer replacement, but the network didn't bring it back in the fall. NBC gave it a shot in 75, but it failed to find an audience and lasted only a season. The brothers went their separate ways for a time in the 70s. Among other endeavors, Smothers got into the wine business, launching Remick Ridge Vineyards in Northern California's wine country. Originally, the winery was called Smothers Brothers, but I changed the name to Remick Ridge because when people heard Smothers Brothers wine, they thought something like Milton Berle Fine Wine or Larry, Curly, and Moe Vineyards, Smothers once said. They eventually reunited to star in the musical comedy I Love My Wife, a hit that ran on Broadway for 2 years. After that, they went back on the road, playing casinos, performing art centers and corporate gatherings around the country, remaining popular for decades. We just kept resurfacing, Smothers commented in 97. We're just not in everyone's face long enough to get old. After a successful 20th anniversary Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in 88, CBS buried the hatchet and brought them back. The show was quickly canceled, though it stayed in the air long enough for Smothers to introduce the Yo-Yo Man, a bit allowing him to demonstrate his considerable skills with a yo-yo while he and his brother kept up a steady pattern of comedy. The bit remained in their act for years. Smothers married 3 times and had 3 children. He is survived by his wife Marie, children Bo and Raleigh Rose, and brother Dick, in addition to other relatives. He was predeceased by his son Tom and sister Sherry. And of course, he was very big into rock and roll. He was part of the recording session The Bed in Montreal with John Lennon's and Yoko Ono's Give Peace a Chance. Also, a big proponent of all the rock acts. The infamous, lip sync of The Who that exploded, almost caused Betty Davis to take a heart attack. Now, I didn't find him funny. I found him sardonic. Funny is all relatives. He wasn't funny. He was basically sardonic. What I mean sardonic, it's like he needed Dick to make his comedy seem relevant. It wasn't like skit comedy. It wasn't like sketch comedy. It's hard to explain. It's not really a Canadian comedy. When I say Canadian comedy, SCTV, Kids in a Hall style, like the troupe, there was just the two of them, and if you didn't like one or the other, it wasn't going to work for you. But like I said, I see where he was coming from. But he was part of the counterculture, but not, and he basically was just one of the Smothers brothers, like I said. But like I said, he had a temper. There was several award shows where he basically got in arguments with people who were accepting awards, and I think the 1980-81 Emmys. I could be wrong here. Anyway, but for me, like I said, in Canada, I do remember again the rebirth of CBS. He was part of that genre from 65 to 75, where CBS went from basically a hit channel to being the number one, what they call cutting edge channel, going Norman Lear and everybody else, All in the Family, the Smothers Brothers. It was just tremendous. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more about the Smothers Brothers, there's many publications, the documentaries and stuff. The where I first read about them, it was some of the original essays on band shows or band events. I think 2 or 3 of the most banned TV segments were the Smothers Brothers show back in the day. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, another entertainer passes away, and like I said, 2023, it's been rough for the entertainment industry. I know the Smothers Brothers have a lot of fans in Canada and the States, of course, and we feel your loss. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, Happy New Year.